Welcome to this AQA GCSE Geography Revision Blast. Today we're focusing on UK economic futures, which is part of the Changing Economic World unit on paper 2. We're going to start off with a round of conundrums. So each of the key phrases have been rearranged. These are all important parts of the UK part of Changing Economic World. You've got 30 seconds to solve each one. Off we go. Okay, let's have a look. It is primary, so this is to do with extracting raw materials from the ground. Number 2. Okay, let's see if you work this one out. It is secondary, so secondary jobs are all about taking a raw material and processing it into something else. They usually take place in factory environments. They're also known as manufacturing. Right, number 3. Okay, let's have a look. It is tertiary. So tertiary industries are all about providing a service. So you might be able to guess what the next one is. Okay, let's have a look. It is quaternary, so high-tech jobs that are all related to research and development. Right, we have one left to go, which links these all together. Okay, did we work out what the link was? Well, they are all economic sectors. So this whole unit of work on the economic futures of the UK is all about how the economy has changed over time, moving from a primary to a secondary to a tertiary and towards a quaternary economy. So we're now going to move on to a round of altered vowels. Each of the key terms that you're going to see are reasons why the economy has changed in the UK. But each of the vowels in those key terms has been changed to an alternative. You just need to work out what they are. Right, number 1. So a nice long word here, lots of vowels. Just leave it up for a moment for you to try and work it out. Okay, have we got it? It is deindustrialisation. So well done if you got that correct. So it basically means a decline in the manufacturing industry, and it's taken place for a number of reasons. So firstly, for mechanisation. So machines and technology have replaced many workers. It's taken place because of competition from overseas with cheaper labour, which means cheaper goods. And UK products are generally seen as too expensive. There's been a real lack of investment, there's high labour costs and outdated machines, so therefore production is much less efficient than it is in other countries. Right, number 2. So have a look at this one. What do we think? Okay, just leave it up for a moment. Okay, let's have a look. It is globalisation. So this is the idea of the global growth and spread of information, goods, money and people. Now, technological developments have been really important to this. So transport and communications and particularly the internet have helped. It has boosted world trade and we've got a lot more imported goods coming into the UK. And it has led to a real explosion of the tertiary and quaternary sectors through global brand and product development. Right, next one. Okay, what do we think? Okay, let's double check this one. It is government policies. So over the years, the governments have made different decisions that have had huge impacts on the economy and the economics growth of certain sectors. So, for example, towards the end of the 1970s, we saw lots of state-run industries. So, for example, British Steel Corporation. And despite the fact these were declining, the UK government kept them alive by investing money in, despite them being quite unprofitable. At the end of the 1970s and up until 2010, we saw a period of privatisation. So the government chose to sell off state-run industries to create competition. Now, this wasn't great because it led to lots of closures and job losses, but it did mean that private investment led to huge redevelopment of derelict industrial areas. Now, we are really sort of struggling as a result of privatisation now. So we've got really not particularly efficient railway services across the country that are completely privatised. There's lots of different companies running them. We've got different power companies, for example, that are giving us our energy, again, not privatised. So this idea of competition just drives prices up for consumers, which is obviously not very good. And then in the last decade or so, we've had a recession economic recovery. So the government have made all sorts of policies to try and attempt to rebuild the economy, investing in manufacturing, investment into huge infrastructure projects such as the high-speed link 2, great big loans for businesses, all sorts of things, trying to encourage TNCs to come back. But we've also had the Brexit vote in that time as well, so another sort of government policy there where we've left the European Union, and that's had a big impact on trade and the economy as well. Right, we've got a couple more altered vowels to go. So this one is a description of our current economy in the UK. So what do we think it might be? Okay, let's reveal. It is a post-industrial economy. So this basically means that the manufacturing industry has declined and it's been replaced by growth in services and research and development. So in the UK, around about almost not far off 80% of people work in the service sector, about 10% of people work in quaternary, with just under 10 in the secondary sector. And it used to be 55% about 100 years ago, so it's gone down hugely. Last one is this one. So what do we think this one might be? Okay, let's reveal. It is our traditional industrial base. So we're thinking about those heavy industries of coal mining, steel, making, shipbuilding, all of those things that kind of people would argue that the country was built on in previous decades. Right, let's move on to a 60-second challenge. You've got 60 seconds to match the key terms with the definitions. You should be familiar with all of these. So matching the letters on the left with the numbers on the right. Off we go. Okay, let's see if we have got those correct. So we have A for globalisation, the process of creating a more connected world with increased movement of goods and people. We've got B3, deindustrialisation, the decline of a country's traditional manufacturing industry due to depleting raw materials, overseas competition and market loss. C5 is a post-industrial economy where manufacturing declines and is replaced by growth in the service sector. D2 is Science Park, a group of scientific and technical knowledge-based businesses located on a single site. E1 is Business Park, an area of land on the edge of town occupied by a cluster of businesses. And F6 is Local Enterprise Partnerships, partnerships between local councils and businesses to support local business needs and encourage companies to invest. If you got those all right, well done. Let's move on to a rounded red herring. You've got to decide which of the 4 items listed is the odd one out. Let's do our first one. So number 1, pottery, steelwork, coal mines or information technology. Which of these is the odd one out and why? Okay, hopefully it should be relatively easy, this one. Let's have a look. It is information technology. The other 3 are part of the UK's traditional industrial base. Number 2, writing apps, website design, generating electricity or coding. Which of the 4 items is the odd one out and why? Okay, let's have a look. It is generating electricity. The others are IT industry jobs. Number 3, large distribution centres, university link, focus on research and development, and offices and laboratories. Which of the 4 items is the odd one out here and why? Okay, let's have a look. It is large distribution centres. The others are all characteristics of science parks. Right, number 4. University link, offices and finance, large distribution centres, and hotels, cafes, and other services. Which is the odd one out and why? Okay, so it's a university link this time. So the others are characteristics of business parks that are slightly different to science parks. Right, our last one. Large sites, edge of town, city centre, easy access to transportation. So which is the odd one out? Why? Okay, let's have a look. It is C. So the others describe the location of science and business parks. They're always on the edge. Right, we're going to move on to a chain of analysis activity. You are going to see 5 sentences. You've got to rearrange them to form a chain of analysis to explain how the UK economy has changed. So let's have a look at these sentences. You are going to need to pause the video to give your time to read through the. Once you've read through them all, you need to decide which one you think is right at the beginning, which one's right at the end, and what order the other 3 go into. Once you're happy with your order, then unpause the video and we will check whether you have got them correct and whether you have got a logical chain of analysis. If you haven't already paused the video, please do so because we are about to reveal the correct order. Let's reveal. Britain's economy began with a focus on primary industries such as farming, fishing and quarrying. Most people lived in rural areas. The Industrial Revolution led to goods being produced more rapidly in factories. UK's towns grew and some became cities. When more raw materials began to run short, with competition from other places, the government decided to rationalise the traditional industry base. Many mines, factories and docks closed. The employment structure changed as secondary industries declined and more people were employed in tertiary and quaternary industries, sometimes working in science and business parks. The UK is sometimes described as having a post-industrial economy, suggesting that it is now focused on IT, finance, services and research. Now, if you got those in the correct order, well done. Right, let's move on to a bubble quiz. So with a bubble quiz, you will see a number of questions. The number of answers that are correct can range from 0 to all 4. Let's go. How has IT transformed the way we work? A. Internet access allows many people to work from home. B. Large amounts of data can be stored and accessed quickly. C. The internet enables us to communicate with people instantly across the globe. And D. Most people can go online through smartphones and tablets. So how many of those are correct? You need to identify the correct ones. Okay, let's have a look. It is all of them. So they all transform the way that we work. Number 2. Which of these are reasons that business parks are located on the rural-urban fringe? A. Closer to motorways and trunk roads. B. Less congestion than towns and cities. C. There is more land available for future expansion. And D. Land is cheaper than in the town centre. So which of these are correct? So just leave it for a moment before we reveal. Okay, let's have a look. Again, it is all of them. So they are all reasons that business parks locate on the rural-urban fringe. Number 3. Why are science parks established near universities? A. They are able to use research facilities. B. Can use students cheaply in medical trials. C. They have a skilled graduate labour force. And D. Good transport links. So which of those is correct? Okay, let's have a look. It is these ones here, so A and C. Number 4. Which employment sectors would you find within science parks? Is it quaternary, tertiary, secondary, or primary? What do we think? Okay, let's have a look. It is quaternary and tertiary. Right, let's move on to a categorised activity. So one of the things that you need to know about is changes to the rural economy, particularly looking at areas where the population has declined and areas where the population has grown. We are going to give you 60 seconds to separate the key phrases into the 2 categories, rural depopulation and rural population growth. Off we go. Okay, let's see how we did. Right, let's see if you have got them in the correct column. So rural depopulation is pushed by a lack of services and opportunities. That's sort of people being pushed out, older population being left behind, schools and shops may shut because obviously there is nobody to support them. And a good example of that would be the Orkney Islands just off the north coast of Scotland. Rural population growth pulled by access to services and opportunities, often building on greenfield sites, so sites that haven't been built on before, is an example of suburbanisation, and a big example there would be South Cambridgeshire. So well done if you got those correct. Right, let's move on to some true or false questions. So my first one is, the North-South divide refers to a cultural and economic differences between the north and the south of the UK. These may be real or imagined. Okay, let's reveal. It is true. Okay, so that's for the North-South divide does refer to this. Number 2. All the areas in the north of the UK are poor and all the areas in the south are rich. Is this true or false? Okay, let's have a look. It is false. Although there is a trend for the south to be wealthier and the north to be poorer, this is it's not right across the board. So there are some quite wealthy parts of the north of the UK, and there are also some quite deprived communities down in the south. Number 3. Many areas which had a traditional industrial base have fallen into decline, while the service sector has boomed in some places. Is this true or false? Okay, let's have a look. It is true. So there are some areas that had a traditional industrial base, such as London with the docks, that have had a really booming service sector. But then you've got some areas where their traditional industrial base closed down. So, for example, the coal mining areas in South Wales, and they have fallen into decline and haven't been able to recover. Number 4. All of the 24 enterprise zones created since 2011 are in north of the UK. So the enterprise zones, just for a bit of context here, are an attempt to address that regional gap between the north and the south. So have they all been created in the north of the UK? Is this true? Let's have a look. It is false. There have been created all around the country. Number 5. Local enterprise partnerships are voluntary and they link local authorities and businesses. Is this true or false? Let's have a look. It is true. Right, now, in an attempt to address the gap in wealth between the north and the south, there has been a number of infrastructure improvements that are very expensive. They are supposed to boost the UK economy on the whole, but they're also supposed to address regional economies. So we've got port improvements, rail improvements, road improvements, and airport improvements. Now, in this activity, the lineup, you've got to decide which the lineup is being described here. So the lineup is A, B, C, or D. Let's have a look. So we've got 1, increasing capacity and condition of routes. 2, Southwest Superhighway. 3, smart motorways. And 4, new lanes to tackle congestion. So what is being described here? We'll just give you a moment before we reveal. Okay, let's have a look. They are, of course, road improvements. Right, next one. Which of the lineup is being described here? Encourages commuting on public transport, electrification, high speed 2, and Crossrail, the Queen Elizabeth line. What's being described here? Okay, just give you a moment. It is rail improvements. Well done. Which of the lineup is being described here? This sector accounts for 3.6% of all UK GDP. Freight and passenger transport, domestic and international travel, and third runway for Heathrow. What is being described here? It is, of course, airport improvements. Okay, let's move on to our last one. Hopefully you have got the gist by now and you already know which one we are going to highlight. Which of the lineup is being described here? So Liverpool 2, services the offshore renewable energy sector, increased capacity for containers, and ferries and cruises. Right, it should be port improvements. Well done. So with this topic, you might get this as a 9 marker in the exam, where you might have to evaluate how transport infrastructure projects have decreased the north-south divide or something quite similar. So make sure you know a few of those key facts. Right, let's move on to another round of red herrings. So it's the same as before, 4 items, you'll be shown 1 is the odd one out. Why is it the odd one out? Let's go. So we've got mechanisation, competition from overseas, poor weather in the north, and products are too expensive. So which of the 4 items is the odd one out and why? Okay, let's reveal the answer. It's poor weather in the north. So the others are reasons for deindustrialisation. Number 2. London's Crossrail electrification of railway lines, high speed 2 and smart motorways. Which is the odd one out and why? Let's have a look. It is smart motorways. The others are improvements to the UK rail network. Okay, high levels of employment, lowland, flat and fertile land, heavily affected by deindustrialisation and higher house prices. So which one is the odd one out and why? Okay, have you worked it out yet? Let's reveal. It is heavily affected by deindustrialisation. The others are characteristics of the South. Right, let's move on to our final activity, which is some multiple choice questions. Number 1, the country with which the UK did the most trade in 2020 was it A, Germany, B, the EU, C, the USA, D, Wales? Let's have a look. It is actually the USA. So the reason it's the USA, even though the graph shows the EU as having the highest number of exports, is because the question said the country. So obviously the USA is our answer here. Question 2. Southampton is an important transport hub connecting the UK to the wider world through its airport, railway, port or road network. Hopefully you've worked out that the photo is a big clue here. It is through its port. Okay, it is a industrial port, but you've also got like a little leisure harbour there, and you've got a big cruise ship in the background. So the port is incredibly important for Southampton. Number 3. The UK exports its culture to the world. How much has Peppa Pig earned? So is it $1 billion, $1 million, $500 million, or $100,000? So Peppa Pig, how much money has Peppa Pig generated? It is $1 billion US. Number 4, how many countries are there in the Commonwealth? 51, 53, 52, 54. So quite tricky because they're obviously all very similar. Let's have a look. It is 54. Right, moving on to number 5. Who is the head of state in Australia? Is it Jacinta Ardern, PM, Scott Morrison, MP, Anthony Albanese, MP, or is it King Charles? Okay, let's reveal. It is King Charles, so it is part of the UK sort of realm. Although there is quite a lot of movement in Australia at the moment to become a republic and not be part of the British monarchy. And finally, when did the UK leave the EU? So it's the 31st of December 2020, the 31st of January 2020, 23rd of June in 2016, and the 1st of January 1973. What date did we leave the EU? Okay, let's have a look. It was the 31st of January 2020. So this happened after a transition period. So the Brexit vote was on the 23rd of June in 2016, and we actually joined the EU on the 1st of January in 1973. Well done if you got all those correct. And well done for getting to the end of the revision blast. We have covered lots and lots of topics here, looking at all sorts of things that come up in that UK economy as part of the changing economic world. Please have a look at our revision blast playlist, because we have got these videos in place for all of the subtopics right across your 6 main units of study. And the last thing from me is just to wish you the very best of luck in your paper 1, 2 and 3 exams. Good luck.